Yeah, so hello and welcome to this year's reinforcement learning class. Before we do anything else, just let me introduce a little information about the current situation and how we actually plan to do this lecture during semester due to Corona. Originally, we planned to do the whole lecture in a presence lecture, so that would be the ideal case, that we would have a weekly meeting where I have 1.5 hours explaining to you the current content of the lecture, or at least do something hybrid, so like something like an online Zoom meeting together with some in-presence Q&A session or some exercises. However, as you might have noticed also during the so in the current situation, we are not allowed to do anything hybrid also, so we need to do everything online. So what we're now actually doing is we will have lecture material and exercises, which you might have noticed, and we will provide lecture material through online videos at least a week before we actually plan to do some Q&A sessions. We will have talking about the Q&A sessions, we will have Q&A Zoom meetings that are actually aligned with the original time plan that we will also see in a few slides. And during this Q&A meetings, this is a Zoom session. You can just come to the meeting and ask questions, and we will talk about the content of the respective lecture. Accompanying to that, we will also have online Zoom exercises. As I will also tell you in a few slides, we really recommend you to actually attend the Zoom exercises, because in the exercise lessons we will recap all the material from the lecture, and you will make a hands-on experience, which is very important to actually understand the content of the lecture. And before we start anywhere ahead, we need to define some code of conduct for efficient Zoom meetings. So we would ask you during Zoom meetings to please mute your microphone unless you're speaking, of course. We ask you to turn on your video to increase presence. After 1 year of Corona, we now know that only a few people actually do that, and we will also have connection and data rate issues. But if it is possible, it is really always a weird situation for a speaker to just talk to a table of names instead of a table of images or moving pictures from you. If you see any technical issues on your side, or even more important on our side, please immediately tell us. So if you don't understand us, if we want to share a screen or there's an animation that we think they are running but you do not see them, please tell us in the chat or use the raise hand feature to actually put this ahead. Yeah, and an important thing, please do not record the meeting. So there is no, we do not sign anything. So please do not record anything. So then everything is fine. Okay, now talking about a little bit about class logistics. So what you might already have noticed is we have the Univis page, which is like a landing page where you can select. Where you can see actually what we're doing in the lecture, and most of you also registered in the Studern, which is why you get actually the Zoom link to attend the session now. So we will start at least to use Studern for the main communication. I also have a little bit to dig into Studern because I've never really used it before. But there's features like forum and chat and things like this, and we will play around with it and activate it so we can really use it, and we also plan to use it. Of course, if you have any questions, you can also ask us directly via email. So as you might have noticed, this is me, this is my email address, and we will also have teaching assistants that you will actually see in the exercises, which is Lukas and Sebastian, both of which are actually colleagues from me at Fraunhofer. And they will actually manage the exercises, and I will be in charge of doing the lectures. But of course, you can write an email to all of us or use Studern. And also one thing, I actually think I never activated a password anywhere, but if there is no way around activating a password at some point, we will use this password. Just to be sure to have a password somewhere. So you remember this password, and then if someone asks you for a password for some of the lecture material, you can use this one. Okay, so talking about the syllabus of the lecture, we have a rough outline in Univis, but we will make it a little bit more clear in here. But first things first, what prerequisites or basics do we expect from you? So we will not cover the basics, the real basics in the lecture, because it's an advanced lecture and it's very specialized. We will actually require a basic knowledge about analysis and calculus. You will benefit from having a knowledge about multivariate statistics. Of course, machine learning background, so what's an SVM, what's a bias variance trade-off, what's a classifier. These are things that we actually expect from you. And we also expect that you have a basic knowledge of Python, which is something I hope you also got already in contact with when you did some machine learning basic courses. Python is something that you will actually use a lot, of course, in the exercises. Okay, how can you actually get such basics? So the easiest way, or what we actually suggest you to do, is to attend the basic lectures that are provided at FAU. Mainly it's like something like deep learning, pattern recognition, machine learning for time series. So they will provide the necessary background. If you feel that at some point this is not enough, or you didn't have the chance to attend such a lecture, you can also refrain to existing books. So there's a whole lot more of books, and I do not say that these are the best books, but actually these are books that I also have in my desk. It's basically Kevin Murphy, Machine Learning, a Probabilistic Perspective. So as the name says, it's a very probabilistic view on the topic. Then you have it's a little bit an older book. It's like Pattern Recognition and Machine Learning from Christopher Bishop, but which gives also a really intuitive introduction into the topics of machine learning. And of course, there's a very recent book from Jan Goodfellow and Joshua Bencho and Aaron Cordwell about deep learning, which is really some basic introduction. So I'm a computer scientist, and I think it's a really computer scientist introduction into the topic. Also a very good book. So this is actually basics from the machine learning standpoint, not about reinforcement learning in general. In particular, you will not find much about reinforcement learning in these books. I will provide reinforcement learning literature that you can use for further reading or to look up things in lesson 1.1, which we will cover next. Okay. So what do we actually want to do in the upcoming weeks? So this is our lecture plan as of right now. Please, we do this lecture this year the first time, so we do not yet have all the material completely polished until now. So this is up to small modifications and changes. But you will see that we will start with an introduction to reinforcement learning. We will cover the basics, and then we do dynamic programming, model-free prediction, and control. Then we also have some holidays in between. We'll cover policy-based reinforcement learning, model-based reinforcement learning, offline reinforcement learning, and also cover a little bit the thing about explainability and exploration. These are actually, you see that we have holidays in here. This does not mean that we have less content. Basically, I actually think that some of these classes will be more than a regular class. So we actually will use the time that you get available from here to actually have a little bit more content in these classes. So as we did not really compile and finish them yet, we cannot really say how much, but maybe we do not cover them in 90 minutes. Okay, and afterwards we have also the exercises, and the exercises are tightly coupled to the actual lecture content. So we will start with an initial exercise next week already, where we do things with environments and MDPs, and then you also see that not all of the exercises cover all of the topics, and we have exercises also that span more than a week, because we actually build on top of what we did in the exercises before, and we build some kind of bigger algorithms from that. Originally, we also planned to do the Q&A session for the lecture on Thursdays in the morning, so in the original slot that we had the lecture. But we found it is more convenient to actually start the exercise Zoom session with the Q&A session. we need to keep things running and keep the ball running and the ball going in the Zoom meetings. And we thought that the exercise could really benefit from the Q&A session, and the Q&A session could also benefit from an upcoming exercise session. So what we will do instead of the original plan, we will use the Monday slot with the exercises and start with the Q&A slot in the beginning. So actually next Tuesday, there will be the Q&A session for today's lecture on Introduction to RL and Markov decision processes. And what we offer you is, so I blocked already the Thursday slot in the morning. So if you have some more specific questions, you can just write me an email and you can expect to have a Zoom meeting with me on Thursday in the morning. Okay. For the syllabus, some tips and tricks how to succeed in the lecture. I will have in my so in the lecture I will also play around with Jupyter notebooks to actually give you a feeling about how things are implemented and how things are working, and we will also provide these Jupyter notebooks to you, so you can also play around with them. And this is something that I also really recommend to you, to get these things running on your machine and to try a little bit out. You do not need a big machine to actually do this. I also run this Jupyter notebooks just on my notebook, so you will also be able to do this on a notebook, and we will not run forever. Keep also in mind that you look the lessons, so the lecture content that we will provide before the Q&A session, that you look them in time, so then you can also benefit much more from the Q&A meetings. So we know that as a student, and I also can remember pretty much, that you will also go in the Q&A meeting without having seen the lecture content before. This is something that I will not recommend to you, of course. We will provide the lecture content at least at the week before, so you have time to look at the videos. I will try to speak slowly so that you can also like fast forward the movie a little bit. And then you're also prepared in the Q&A meetings that you can then attend, and then we can have a true discussion in the Q&A sessions. We also recommend to attend the exercises and implement them, talking about the exam on the next slides. This is also something very beneficial for you if you do this. Also remember, the Q&A sessions are open to everybody, so even though if you maybe plan to attend the lecture and to take something with you, and you do not plan to do an exam actually, you can also attend the Q&A sessions without doing the exercises, just like under normal conditions. If this would be in presence, you can also attend, so you can just attend also the Q&A sessions without having an exam. Yeah, talking about the exam in general, currently we plan to have oral exams. It depends a little bit on the registrations, how many of you actually want to do the exam, and also on the COVID situations. Depending on the number and the situation, we might also get to a point where we say we do a written exam, but this is something we expect to be decided like in the middle of the lecture. However, we will actually recommend, as I recommended to you, that you also attend the exercises. We will also try to make content from the exercises or insights that you get through the exercises also part of the exam. May it be the written exam or the oral exam. There might be questions about how would you implement something, and in this cases it would be really helpful if you also attended the exercises and played around with the exercises at least. Yeah, this is it at this point. The scheduling and the logistics of the exams are still to be discussed. One thing maybe I want to mention, so actually we, as you've seen, all of us are from Fraunhofer IIS. We're not employees at the university. Our only goal to actually do this, so we do not get any money from the university for doing this. Our motivation to do this class is actually to educate you as students to become probably master students at our institute and actually work together with us on exciting topics. If you have interest in that, and if you find RL really to be something that gives you something, just go ahead and ask me, Lucas, or Sebastian, and we'll be happy to provide you something, like depending on what you need and what you want and what we need. Okay, and then this is it from my side for the opening remarks. Stay healthy, and I wish you much fun attending and looking at the lecture material. Thanks and goodbye.